What if the best way to play Dishonored is to ignore everyone's favorite part? I beat the game without powers to see if it actually improves it. We start with our hero returning from a great journey on behalf of the Empress, and like any great father, upon arrival, I ignore my child and seek out my wife. Unfortunately, I get there and Hiram Briros sends someone to assassinate her, kidnap Emily, and I'm forced into custody. He later tells me I was in the wrong place at the right time, which is worth remembering for later in the game. I received a letter, and with it, a key to my cell. Being the only level in the game that all players must complete without the aid of the outsider, this is where I get a real taste of what the rest of this powerless run is going to be like. Cold Ridge Prison is our tutorial area, showing us what the basic Dishonored formula has to offer. The tall ceilings and bright lights are intended to impede aspiring escapees' attempts at freedom. As you sneak through this prison, you are fed your fundamental movement options, and it's clear that this prison is not guarded well enough to keep Father of the Year Corvo contained, even without his supernatural abilities. As trivial as this is, we don't want to overstay our welcome, so we grab an explosive device and do our best Michael Bay impression. In the ensuing chaos, I escape through the sewers, but while on our way out, we catch a glimpse of the rat plague that is tearing through the city. We hitch a ride with our friend Samuel to the Hound Pits pub, which resides in the district of Dunwall that has been condemned due to the plague. This place is hardly welcoming, but this will be your home as you attempt to clear your name and save the Empire. You meet the Loyalists, the people nice enough to bail you out of prison, who explain that they're here to help get Lady Emily on the throne. They want to use my skills to get rid of the Lord Regent, which seems incredibly normal, and I'm sure nothing crazy will happen. I'm told to get some rest, and as I wake, we aren't in Dunwall anymore. After exploring, I encounter a mysterious being that knows all about our situation. He calls himself the Outsider. And like Friday the 13th at your local tattoo shop, we're given a tattoo we never really wanted, but at least it looks cool. With this tattoo, we are given supernatural abilities, and just as we did our child before, we shall ignore these too. This is where Dishonored breaks one of the biggest rules in stealth games, which is disempowerment. For those of you who haven't heard this term used in reference to a stealth game, it is just a fancy word for taking power away from the player. You can do this in a few ways. You can make the player weak in full-on combat. You can limit the player's tools. You can remove the safety nets like quick saves. You can like and sub. Nah, I'm just kidding. But for real though, the list goes on, but Dishonored takes those ideas and throws them out the window. In the first real level of the game, the player is armed to the teeth with a lethal tool belt and an even deadlier arsenal of powers. You have a power for any situation you can think of. If you need to get to a place up high, you have the most iconic power in the game, Blink, which gives the ability to teleport to a location visible and within range. Possession allows you to take control of small creatures, and later on, even humans, to find interesting places to infiltrate. They give you the power to stop time, for Christ's sake. Like, what else could they have given us? We are sent back to our reality, and we're given our first real mission: to save a potential ally and get rid of an evil henchman to the Regent. We get our first look at the distillery district in Dunwall. I'm warned by Samuel of an upcoming obstacle I may encounter that can burn me to a crisp. We can immediately tell that things in Dunwall are bad. The Royal Guard are throwing bodies off of a bridge into a boat to ship them off somewhere. On top of that, there are almost no civilians on the streets, only the Regent's goons. With streets full of pigs, we use the scale of the distillery district to our advantage and sneak by undetected. We save our rescue target and move on towards the High Overseer's office, our first true test. Mid-infiltration is where I started to notice my lack of mobility due to my restriction. I applaud whoever at Arcane understood that there needed to be a gameplay paths catered to those who don't use the powers. In most opportunities, I will be able to blink across a path, but by making the spaces between them the perfect distance for a sprinting jump, you have successfully opened up the game for both parties. The one who uses Blink gets to enjoy its breakneck speed and ease of use. On the other hand, the restricted player gets to do a little bit of platforming, which adds a risk of falling. Once in, our first objective is to take some of the important marketing documents left behind from the Campbell files. Jumping while inside is significantly less reliable. The CTE from hitting our heads every time we jump makes me miss Blink even more. There is so much verticality in this level, and it solidified in my brain that being above the enemy is almost always the safest place to be. Even inside the building, there are chandeliers and wires to walk about on. And the best part? No one looks up. Conveniently, the aforementioned wires take me directly to the room where the High Overseer plans to poison someone. I decided to switch the poison to Campbell's side, which in hindsight seems like a gamble. Like, how do I know which one he's gonna pick up and drink? I don't know. That's just the kind of stuff I think of. I take some notes from SpongeBob and watch it go all down from the window.
And I plague you, useless incompetent! I never liked you! What in the world?
After Campbell drinks his poison, I knock out his target, steal the blackmail I came for, and gave him the old Doug treatment and left him out on the roof. I make my way back to Samuel, and just like that, Dunwall is saved. I'm just kidding. I don't even make it inside before I'm told there's more work to be done. Who knew that saving an empire would be so difficult? I'm warned about the Weepers that live below the pub. They are people who've been infected by the rat plague, and they're at the point of no return, according to Havelock. He has a clear disdain for them, as he describes them as
nothing more than a shuffling corpse full of sickness and insects, if you ask me.
I like him. He seems like a pretty compassionate dude. He lets me know that Piero can craft up something that's non-lethal to take them out. Piero is one of the loyalists helping us along on our journey. He creates all our gears and tools for the field. In the sewers, we can hear the sounds of coughing like someone who took way too big of a hit, and this is where we encounter our first new enemy type. According to the heart, some of them don't even want to kill you. What you perceive as attacks are actually their attempts to seek aid, which is super sad. The Weepers are slow and unaware. Not a threat to you in any way, but if they're in a group, then you still need to be careful. We're given our next mission by Havelock and Martin, the guy we saved in the last mission. We're told that Emily was taken to the Golden Cat, a bathhouse for aristocrats. We arrive back at the distillery, and Samuel tells us about a local gang leader named Slackjaw, who might have an idea of a way to get into the Golden Cat. Here we're given another obstacle, the Watchtower. Watchtowers have the ability to shoot missiles at anything unlucky enough to get caught in the field of view of their spotlight. Their weak spot is on top of the tower, so unfortunately for us in this playthrough, it will be more difficult to deal with them without blinking. This forces me to be careful with my pathing. I need to sneak around in a direction that I can't get caught by the light, adding more depth to an area. Its stature also makes it more difficult to hide from because of its height. It's not like I can just go hide behind something. Sneaking past, I find myself in the Dunwall Whiskey Distillery, the territory run by Slackjaw. He explains to me that there are special guests attending the Golden Cat tonight and that it would be very difficult for me to sneak in due to increased security. He says he can help me in exchange for me doing something for him. He wants me to go sneak into a person named Dr. Galvani's house and find the informant that he sent there. It's here that I get to utilize one of the gadgets I get from Piero. The Spring Razor is a trap that you set up, and whenever an enemy walks within its range, it'll explode and take them all out. It's nice when they have multiple enemies walking in the same direction, because you'll take them all out at once. I grab the evidence for Slackjaw's lost men and hightail it back to the whiskey distillery. I return with the news, and although it wasn't what he wanted to hear, he tells me that he is a man of his word and gives me a key to a hotel near the Golden Cat that will help me get in. Before I leave, he gives me another proposition, and he tells me that he can take care of the Pendleton brothers quickly and without killing them if I do one more thing for him. Typically, I don't take this option because having powers can really trivialize the Golden Cat, but because I don't have them, I thought it would be interesting to give him a shot. He wants me to retrieve a save code from a patron of the Golden Cat and bring it back to him, and he'll take care of the rest. I accept and head out to carry out the mission. Before I make it to the Golden Cat, I'm faced with the obstacle that I was told to keep an eye out for, as it can vaporize the Royal Guard's enemies in an instant, the Wall of Light. Luckily, with Piero's genius, it's pretty easy for us to deal with. Using a rewiring tool, I'm able to change the targeting parameters on the Wall of Light. This allows me to pass right through, and enemies actually are the ones that get vaporized. Once through, I need to avoid another watchtower, so I use height to my advantage. While the watchtower is good at seeing over cover, it is not very good at seeing things at the same level as it. So finally we make it to the Golden Cat, and this is when Arcane decides to let you in on a little secret. This is a stealth game at its core, but it's also something we like to call an immersive sim. Who are we, you ask? I don't know, but you know, we say it. Immersive sim is just a fancy way to say that you can complete your mission in a bunch of different ways. The Golden Cat is compact. Looking at it from the outside, there's a lot to take in, and all the options are on display here. Unfortunately, due to our challenge here, we lose a few of those options. This is another thing that I think shines when you don't have access to powers, is you need to have the ability to adapt on the fly. Without the versatility of the powers, you restrict the ways in and out of an objective. This rewiring of your approach adds a little bit of depth to the stealth gameplay as a whole. On the other hand, it hinders the immersive sim side of the game. You get some very interesting options with the powers. Things like being able to possess a rat or a fish to enter through some kind of grate, or using blink to make it on top of an out-of-reach balcony. Without them, it can be kind of restrictive. Using my agility, I jump across the rooftops to enter at the highest point possible. I find my daughter hanging out here, and at this point, I need a prize for best father of all time. Because after reconnecting with her, I let her walk through this bathhouse full of prostitutes and creeps to meet me later. She even tells me to meet her at the special door for special people. And apparently that didn't set off any red flags for me. Anyway, we continue through the bathhouse, and we start to see a shift in the map design. You can see Arcane's attempts to scale the difficulty through map design. Those wires I mentioned in the last mission, gone. They have ledges, but they no longer stretch the span of hallways. The chandeliers that hang are also spaced farther away, making blink missed even more. Bend time is also missed here because it provides openings for you to move about on the ground level without having to worry about it. I finally made it to my target, and it's not what you expect. This freak is attached to an electric chair and likes to get zapped. There's no other way to explain it, and apparently this is something he does pretty frequently. He described my footsteps as heavier than usual. After frying his brain for a few minutes, I forced him to tell me the code to his safe, and we get out of there. We meet up with Emily at the special door for special people, and it looks pretty average to me. But at least she didn't get kidnapped. I make my way back to Slackjaw, give him the combination to the safe, and he calls us a good man, and explains what he intends to do with the targets.
I'm gonna shave their heads and cut out their tongues and put them in one of their own stinking minds. Then they're gonna see life from a different angle.
This is pretty brutal, and I think we can all agree that this is a fate worse than death. I head back to Samuel and Emily, who I let walk through the streets full of guards and weepers, and we get out of the distillery district. Some of the loyalists come out to meet her and show her respects as the true heir, but some of the loyalists are a little too busy congratulating each other. I'm sure there's nothing shady about that. This time, we don't even get a chance to sleep before we're sent off to do our next mission, which is to break out our old painting buddy, Antov Sokolov. Sokolov lives on the northern side of Caldwin's Bridge. Unfortunately, Samuel can't shuttle us all the way because of the spotlights that watch the water underneath the bridge. We'll need to disable those and give him access. This mission has a mix of lofty buildings and narrow streets. We're gonna have to get a little creative in our crossing. These crafty side routes are super important for anyone doing a no powers run. With powers, I could have just walked through the front gate, blinked up to the top of the street lights, and coast. But I don't have it, so I gotta think a little. I continue forward to shut off the lights underneath the bridge. I bravely take out the enemies with explosive ordnance from behind cover, although it's not enough to put them down, and I'm forced to valiantly shoot my enemy while he has no idea where I am. I then come across a new threat, the arc pylon. This obstacle works almost opposite of how the watchtower functions. While the watchtower specializes in denial behind coverage on the ground, the arc pylon punishes me for getting anywhere in its radius. It doesn't matter if I'm above, below, beside, I'm getting cooked. Clustered enemies are a bit more difficult for me to take out without things like bend time. My go-to solution was the shoot and shank. Basically, I jump, shoot an arrow at one enemy, and land an air assassination on the other. And I hit it first try every time. Enemy density begins to slowly increase in this level, and it makes sense mechanically and from a narrative perspective. During the plague, the bridge went from a hub of commerce and art to a defensive position on the lockdown to protect from any ocean attacks. This level puts guards in close proximity to each other and security measures. Arc pylons create an area of denial, while the winding halls and staircases have guards steps away from blaring alarms. In such close quarters, I'm forced to power down the arc pylon to make my way across the bridge. Not having powers really brings out the emphasis on parkour as a movement option. One of my favorite points where this is noticeable is when I climb the side of the bridge on the outside with these jumps. At the top, I go ahead and take care of the power to the spotlights and do my best Fred Flintstone impression down the bridge. I draw a few guards into a trap, clearing my path to Sokolov's house. I know I've said a lot of good things about this game so far, but this game is not without its faults. There are definitely some times where the game asks you to really suspend your belief, like this right here. There is no way this dude doesn't see me. Sometimes guards won't react to things that break right next to them too. These problems aren't game breaking, but they are present and they take away from important aspects of stealth games, the repeatable reactions of guards. This particular section requires that you stop the turning of this wheel to shut down the wall of light. Without powers, I'm forced to put myself in a situation where I encounter more guards in this scenario because of my lack of abilities. I need to go hit a switch, and this isn't incredibly difficult by any means. It's just cool that they made an alternate route that's a little bit more difficult. Once I made it to the area Sokolov lives in, I see these poor people stuck behind a wall of light, so you know I had to break them out. So I used my tried and true method, the shank and shoot. Like I said, I never missed this.
Ask how you are, and you just have to say you're fine. And
I get to Sokolov's house, and it's not really a house. It's closer to a fortress of some kind. I don't know. Blinding lights, guards, and alarms covering every square inch of the outside. My best chance of getting in was walking through the front door, so I posted up on a high balcony and prepared my famous shoot and shank. Once inside, it looks even less like a house. Like, come on, man, the feng shui is all over the place. Regardless of the bad vibes of this place, I have someone to kidnap. I was looking everywhere for this man, and I couldn't find him. Finally, I find him in his grow house, studying plants with a woman in jail. I'm not really sure that this is the kind of dude I want on my side, so I knock him out in the most painful way possible, free the woman, and make my way back to Samuel. Unfortunately for Sokolov, I overestimate my grip strength, and I dropped him about 4 stories into the ocean. Navigating through the dilapidated buildings, I'm able to get myself and Sokolov back to the pub. We return back to the pub in the dead of night. While Sokolov takes his nap, Havelock tells me that I've done a good thing and that I am finally allowed to sleep. The next day, it's interrogation time, baby, and I'm ready for answers. Havelock explains to Anton that we just need the name of the Lord Regent's baby mama. Sokolov, with a will more resilient than John Henry, he spills the beans after I give him 1 bottle of cheap brandy. He gives us the name Lady Boyle, explaining that he only met her once while painting her, so he only got her last name. Serendipitously, he was actually supposed to go to a royal party and meet her that same night. Yeah, look that one up. Serendipitous. My new mission is to infiltrate that party and get rid of Lady Boyle. Before I can go, Lord Pendleton asked me to deliver a sealed letter to a man with no context. Seems pretty harmless, so I went ahead and told him I'll do it. Samuel takes me to the Boyle estate, and it's a gloomy scene. The clock tower engulfed by the moon is beautiful, but I can't focus much on that because of the presence of a new enemy. The tall boy. The tall boy skulks about on these stilts, eliminating the ability to hide behind short cover similar to a watchtower. Unlike the stationary watchtower, the tall boy can patrol a large area. Without powers, these guys are extremely hard to take care of due to your restriction to perchable areas that you can access, so sneaking past them is gonna be my best option. The Boyle estate is the opposite of everything that you've seen during the game so far. This place is elegant and well taken care of. Quite the contrast from all the other locales we've seen so far, and the variation doesn't stop in the level design, but the mission design as well. This is a social stealth mission. We are to blend in and eliminate the target after identifying them. I start by getting to know some of the friends of the Boyles. She asked me if I can go grab her a drink, and when I do, she tells me that Waverly Boyle is in black, which helps me narrow down my search. While searching, I ran into the man Pendleton wanted me to deliver his letter to. He then proceeds to set up a shooting duel. I dispatch him after a few shots, but can we talk about this for a minute? How crazy is it to send someone to a fucking duel for you and not tell them? Like me, personally, I'm throwing Pendleton into an arc pylon for that. Anyway, after my fight with Shaw, I noticed a very tall building that is about the same height as the Boyles estate. I figured if I can get to the top floor of that building, I can get free access to the top floor of the estate. Granted that I can make the jump. I find my jumping point and make it first try. After combing through the upstairs, I find out that Waverly Boyle is paranoid that someone is trying to get her. Armed with this info, I get ready to boogie. I head back into the party and come across a man who says he can help. Lord Brisby, which is a fantastic name by the way, explains that he has helped with our cause and he knows why I'm here. He actually tells me who the real target is and that he wants to make sure that no harm comes of her. He professes his love for her and says that he can make sure she doesn't get into any trouble. What a nice guy. Knowing she was going to a safe home, I tracked her down and let her know that this place isn't safe. I tell her that there's a boat in the cellar to get her to safety. I sing her a lullaby and off she goes with Lord Brisby, who I'm sure is not a creep in any way. I wanted to save my explanation of how this mission feels different until after I was done because it only changes as much as you want it to. Let me explain. With powers, you can basically skip most of the mission by immediately heading upstairs and determining who Waverly is based on her paranoia. The reason I chose the path that I did is because I felt like I needed to lean into the social stealth elements to complete this mission. I would have never found that path upstairs had it not been for me getting in the shootout with Shaw outside, but I could have always gone straight to Brisby. I love this mission, and I think it's a good change of pace. Now it's time for me to escape. Thankfully, there's a path through the sewers to get me back to Samuel. Only problem is they increased security from when I went into the party. The tall boys watched the closest staircase to my objective forcing me to reroute. I find a landing I can get up on all the way on the other side. Now it's time to get high. From above, you get a good visual of what kind of area denial the tall boy creates with its spotlight. Staying above the enemies, or the good old-fashioned timing, are the only things that can help me get past this section. Tall boys are the enemies that you feel the most vulnerable to without powers. They have high awareness and protection against most of your normal attacks. Before I deal with the tall boys, there are two enemies in prime position for my signature move that I never miss: the shoot and shank. Do you remember what I said about timing? With powers, timing becomes trivialized by dark vision. Dark vision allows you to see through walls and see enemy vision cones. This removes any kind of tension when moving through a space with enemies because you have more than enough information to clearly pass through. Without powers, you have a weaker version of it, and it's the game's sound design. See, Arcane went in with the sound design philosophy that sound is information for the player. This makes it so I can make informed decisions, like getting past these tall boys. I listen as the footsteps get closer or farther away to make my next move, which adds a level of immersion to the stealth gameplay that might be overshadowed by dark vision in a powers playthrough. I find my way back to Samuel and to the Hound Pit's pub. Upon arrival, the world feels brighter, and as the name of the level, the final move, suggests, we are one mission away from completing our quest to put Lady Emily on the throne. I go talk to Havelock and Martin, and they say something a little interesting, which seems like a bit of a red flag, but I'm sure they're just excited. Martin says we are one step away from the throne, and we must strike while the Lord Regent is exposed. But what does he mean by we? We head back to the place where all the shenanigans started, Dunwall Tower. Although it's nothing like how we saw it the first time. The port is absolutely empty. The moon swallows the night looming over the tower, and the world on the outside of the walls feels still. The inside is fortified with guards and traps. Arcane really throws the kitchen sink at you in this section, and it's hard not to love. Pretty much every enemy and obstacle you've come across so far stands between me and the man who started this whole thing. An arc pylon blocks my immediate entry, and I'm forced to move quickly and disable it. There are 3 guards armed with an alarm and a wall of light guarding the room above. A tall boy patrols the next area, making it so you have to be patient to cross and scale the wall. Once on top of the wall, there's a guard, but he's the least of my worries. In front of me, I have another wall of light, a tall boy, and a watchtower. So I have to keep track of all those variables at once, and I think that's what makes a stealth game fun. Can I perfectly time passing all of those factors? The answer is yes, and that's the fantasy of a stealth game. Let me feel like I'm smart enough to pick this puzzle apart and put it together again. Let me adapt on the fly and feel cunning. So in this way, it definitely makes Dishonored a better stealth game. I finally make it inside, and the interior is huge. You can overhear some of the guards talking to the Regent over the intercom. The Regent is asking the guards if everything is clear and is it safe for him to sleep in his normal room tonight rather than the bunker on the roof. The guards warn him that it's probably best for him to stay up there. He, with all the arrogance in the world, says, "No, I'm going to my room," immediately giving us the hint to go to his room, which might be easier said than done. Things here feel very spread apart, and it's hard to navigate without Blank. I want to make a call back to what I said about the person at Arcane who made sure that the jumps were perfectly spaced, because they came through and did it again. These jumps for the chandeliers are perfectly spaced for a sprinting jump. This is perfect for us, but not without a downside. The sprint is loud enough to bring attention to us, but as long as I wait and space them out, they'll never get full aggroed. Once in the room, I use the patience I've been growing with this challenge to wait until the Lord Regent gets here. When I got to him, I let him know. He was just in the wrong place at the right time. Boom, roasted. Get it? Because he said it to me earlier. I superhero land off the top of the balcony, and I make my way back to Samuel. When back at the pub, Samuel seems a little weary and not too thrilled that we just liberated Dunwall. But not me, baby. It's time to drink. The Loyalists are all gathered to celebrate this momentous moment. Lord Pendleton and Havelock both give me a toast, and it's time for me to get some rest. As I get back to the room, it seems like I've been poisoned. And as I slip in and out of sleep, I see the 3 men I've been working for the whole time. Wait. You mean to tell me that the super rich and government officials aren't all altruistic do-gooders that want nothing but the betterment of society? How could I have known that? I awaken in the Flood District, a destroyed section of the city partially sunken by the Wrenhaven River. Here, we will come to face a group of enemies that we have only encountered a handful of times. The Whalers. The Whalers are the group of assassins that killed Jessamine in the very beginning of the game, and they are led by a man named Dowd. Dowd is well acquainted with the powers we have, because he also worked with the Outsider and received his mark. Dowd and all of his assassins have similar abilities to ours, being the only people who could realistically take us on. This mission takes what I said about disempowerment to the next level. I've had my sword taken, my equipment snatched, and in order to escape this hole I've been placed in, I need to throw bricks at the wood to get out. I don't think it gets lower than this. I dispatched the 2 guards and sledged through the nasty water. First things first, I gotta get my gear back, so I follow the Blue Brick Road and head to the Greaves Refinery. In order to get my gear, I need to power up this mechanical staircase for it to get me in a position to climb it. This is another example of a puzzle being necessary due to me not having powers. Blink makes this a cakewalk. Not that the puzzle is super difficult to do without it, but it's another barrier for entry. Once inside, I need to descend the Whale Oil Tower. This is also super easy because there's nothing but Weepers here, and if you're quick, they won't attack you. On our way back to Dowd, we find a bunch of Overseers left to die on the floor of this abandoned building. It's here where I realize the Whalers have a different way of patrolling areas. Instead of usual ground control we see from Royal Guards and Overseers, the Whalers control the roofs of buildings, looking down. It is especially apparent when you get to just outside Dowd's base, where there are so many different routes and elevation changes that you never really know when you'll come across your next enemy. A place like Dunwall Tower is a well-kept fortress that is predictable with its design. This base is anything but well-kept and predictable. Collapsed roofs and missing floors are all over the place here, keeping you on your toes. On top of their powers, Dowd's assassins watch each other's backs. You'll see that there are about 5 guards in this area. All of their patrol paths overlap with each other in some way. For situations like these where enemies work in tandem, you really do miss powers like Possession, which would allow you to just sneak by disguised as one of them. Hell, even Dark Vision would be super helpful to determine the break point in their defenses. I make it inside, and there's a training assassin working on his stealth skills. And I don't know why, but me following him through the stealth course just for him to finish the course to be snuck up on is hilarious. Now it's time to deal with Dowd directly. He is an interesting target because of his awareness of our abilities. This is shown by where he decides to wait for me. He has his back to a corner, making it extremely difficult for me to get behind him. Luckily, I'm able to find a path behind him by dealing with a few of his goons on an adjacent building. And for being a master assassin, Dowd has the awareness of a goldfish. I was able to sneak up right behind him and steal the key right off his desk without him noticing. Choosing to let Dowd live thematically is a difficult decision. Is it worth killing the man hired to kill the Empress when he was just carrying out his contract? Now I know this doesn't exonerate him for the crime altogether, but is it worth another death? It's also funny to think that he's looking around going, where is everyone and what happened to my damn key? Rudshore Gate is a cool section. On the ground level, there are not a lot of options for cover. Coupled with the tall boys that patrol this ground, it is almost definitely a death trap. Lucky for us, we hear a couple of guys who mention hitching a ride on the old plague wagon, so that's exactly what we do. I ascended the destroyed building and waited for my way out. I expertly made this jump on the first try. I really missed Blink. I made the jump on the first try, and just like the pioneers, I rode that baby for miles. Well, not really, just across the yard, but you know. For a second, I forget that I'm not immune to the electricity, so I have to do it all over again. I really enjoyed this section. Although it was short and relatively easy to get through, I think it's cool to reward the player for paying attention to the environment. It's fitting for a run like this because without the powers, you need to get a little crafty. I escaped through the sewers and noticed what seems to be a little settlement inside of the sewer system. These poor people were trying to escape the plague and the political bullshit, having to hide in the one place that guardsmen won't go look for them. On the other side of the sewer, I'm back at the Hound Pits pub, and it's fun to come back to this area with an enemy presence. This place rewards players who took their time when they came back here in between missions because they unintentionally created routes prior to this engagement. Clearly, I'm not one of those people because I couldn't think of anything better than hiding in this bush that works flawlessly. Inside the building, I try to steal these documents in front of these 3 guys but get caught. And unfortunately for me, my last save is also right as I steal the documents, so I'm kinda stuck doing this fight. I finally manage to take them out and begin my escape. Before I can leave, I need to get to my old room and grab a letter from Emily, and this guy has the audacity to piss on my floor like I don't have a wonderful green shag carpet. Piero and Sokolov have been hiding out in Piero's workshop, and they've been cooking up something crazy. They have built this mega pylon. This puppy should be able to fry everyone in the vicinity of the pub. I snagged the plans from Havelock's old room, and thank God he doesn't recycle, and I get the pylon ready to go. Piero gives us the choice: spare all the guards and knock them out, but I want revenge for all all the times that I got cooked by their arc pylons, so I instruct them to burn them all. I turn on the mega pylon, and then I realize that Sokolov and Piero must have the mark of the outsider with how fast they make it to the roof. Old Samuel comes to pick me up, and we are off to our final mission on King Sparrow Isle. This place is functionally similar to Dunwall Tower in the way that it throws a lot at you all at once. They've got watchtowers, arc pylons, walls of light, but they are missing tall boys, which are one of the enemies that are more difficult to handle with no powers. I'm forced to sneak by the watchtower because there's no way for me to disable it. I rewire this wall of light, and I am able to enter the interior of the fortress. Inside, it's crawling with guards. It feels like every 5 feet is covered in some capacity. Luckily for me, because I'm on a low chaos run, the enemy density isn't overwhelming. I find a path through the interior, picking guards off one by one. This stealth really shines in this mission because of how compact everything is. Enemies patrol close by, but unlike Dowd's men, they don't really cover each other in any way meaningful. I want my betrayers to know I'm coming, so I decided to make an entrance. I expertly throw a grenade at no one and air assassinate a pursuing guard to break my fall and enter during the commotion. Ascending the tower isn't too bad. If you get a little creative with your pathing, it lets you bypass a lot of the patrols. I get my first slow-mo zoom-in shot in the entire game, and I don't really know how that's possible considering it's the last level, but okay. I make my final ascent up the tower, and like the mission name, I can see the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm not sure if any of these guards were expecting me to get this far, but they should all be fired due to negligence. They all have one job, and that's to watch the one direction I can come from, and they can't even do that. This section's a breeze without powers, and sadly, it's a little anticlimactic. Something like Dunwall Tower would have been a way better way to close this out. Give me a challenge that encompasses everything I've faced in the game, including Dowd's assassins. This mission lets you be stealthy, but it isn't difficult to be. There's just not as much tension as there could be. To conclude my journey, I kill Havelock in the same way I would anyone else because he does not deserve special treatment. I save Emily, and she asks me if she can be Empress now, but be careful what you wish for because you really don't like it later. Trust me. So all of this to answer one question: is Dishonored a better game without powers? And in short, I would say yes. The game really does get the shine when disempowerment is present. Stripping Corvo of all of his powers makes the player think about the situation more. Things like blink trivialize traversal and certain enemies, making them feel like they were never present in the first place. Without powers, if I need to move through a space with multiple enemies, I need to be perceptive as the player. I need to keep mental notes of where they are, where they're going, where are they looking. Things like dark vision and bend time remove any thought needed by the player, revealing their exact location or stopping their perception. Possession minimizes trap lethality. The arc pylons and the walls of light are not even close to a problem when you can grab any guard and walk through its damage field. Not having powers makes every instance of these obstacles feel like a puzzle rather than a flowchart. On top of that, you have a real need to use your tools to solve those puzzles. Rewiring tools are especially useful for those aforementioned traps, while razor wires get more use cases for setting up traps of our own. Although it is better, it is not perfect. The lack of mobility pushed me to use the crossbow in more situations, leading to overutilization. The lack of real chase mechanics makes getting caught an instantaneous reset, which is also a problem for powers, but shows up here too. The immersive sim mechanics are also limited by not taking the powers. There are so many options that are locked behind having powers at your disposal. Things like entrances being out of jump reach or needing possession to get through a ventway. A big part of the fun of this game comes from the power fantasy of being a magical assassin. I definitely think that this is a secondary playthrough kind of deal. Enjoy everything that comes with the powers, and then if you're still looking for a more enhanced stealth experience, give this challenge a shot. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, like and sub. It really does matter to small creators like myself. If you want to see some other stuff by me, go check out my Fallout 4 video without fast travel right here. Lastly, if you're looking to pick up Dishonored for yourself, check out my G2A affiliate link below, and you can get it for cheaper than you would on whatever platform it is you're on.